Welcome everyone. Welcome to the third edition of the B2A podcast Wizard Fellowship edition. On today's episode, we have two very special guests. Keren Acevedo, better known by the fellows as the comandante, they call you?
La patrona.
The patrona, the boss of the Wizard Fellowship. And also we have Ana María Citron. They will be sharing their stories quickly. Today's episode is recorded in English because we wanted to go to a broader audience. In Ana Maria's interest, this podcast will be heard by people all over the world that support Kiva and support Causa Local. So we will be talking in English. Do you want girls to introduce yourselves?
So my name is Keren, as she said, and then I studied industrial engineering as a bachelor, and then I went in University of Puerto Rico at Mayagüez, and then I went to Ohio to do an MBA. That was like 10 years ago in Bowling Green State University, and then from then on, I have been working for 10 years in consulting, most of which have been in B2A consulting. I started as a business analyst. Now I'm working as an engagement manager. And then in 2018, B2A allowed me to take a sabbatical year to travel to Sweden, where I did another master in leadership for sustainability. And also I used the time to travel whole Europe. And I made a lot of great friends over there. So now I'm back in B2A and doing great stuff for Puerto Rico and communities. Yeah.
Your master was on sustainability.
Leadership for sustainability. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. That will be very useful in our next, in the next part of the podcast. Ana.
First of all, thank you so much for inviting us. It's a pleasure to share this time with you ladies. Maria, I just met you, but Keren, you're amazing. So thank you. It's a joyful time to be here.
Ana. Yeah.
In the middle of the pandemic, but we're here. Well, my name is Ana María Citron, and I studied in the University of Puerto Rico. I'm originally from Ponce. I studied accounting and finance. And I started to work at Deloitte. I was there for about 4 years. I worked here in Puerto Rico, and I worked in Miami. And I had a lot of banking clients. I love banking at that moment. And then after being in Miami for a while, I came back and continued to work for local firms. And I started to grow Kiva in Puerto Rico. And Kiva is a global online platform where small business owners tell their stories. And they are able to do crowdlending and have access to capital at 0% interest. And something that started as a job, but part-time on my free time, volunteer, no money, just for the fun of it. Nowadays, it is run by a nonprofit which we founded here in Puerto Rico, which is called Causa Local. And Causa Local facilitates an access to capital ladder through Kiva in its first rung. And then we also manage an impact investment fund. And we work with small business owners and very punctual needs so they grow and they don't feel alone. It could be a little hard when you're trying to, increase a business, increase sales, hire more employees, and you also have to be strategizing and planning. So basically, we provide access to capital. We have the rights to work here at Kiva in Puerto Rico. And we also provide that hand-holding that's like in an individualized way.
Good, great. So let's start this episode. Welcome to both of you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let's start this episode with a topic we were discussing a few days ago, and I think it's very interesting. What do you two consider is the difference between a non-profit or a charity and a social entrepreneurship or micro company, and which one is better?
That's a question.
Who wants to start?
Yeah.
Keren, yo voy a ti.
Yeah. So a nonprofit, of course, it's not focused on profit, right? And they are dedicated to particular social causes. It could also be environmental, right, or other aspects to help people improve their situations, right? But they acquire money through fundraising, right? In the case of social enterprises, they are for-profit businesses. However, they are mission-oriented or mission-focused. So they are not necessarily looking for growth or to have an, increasing amounts of profit each year. They are more focused on actually doing a job in a community or a cause, but their funds come from sales. They have to sell a product to a public, and then that's how they operate. But they can break even. They can go just break even to operate, to have the minimum income to actually operate, and then provide a service that they want to do in a community or a group. But they are for-profit businesses. Yeah. I don't know, Anna, if you have any other way to describe it.
Yeah, I think social enterprises can be established as a for-profit or a non-profit, and I really think that either ones could be good, especially if you're not like hurting the environment or you're following the 17 objectives established by the United Nations. But I do think there's an aspect of the leadership that you have to consider, because like you said, nonprofits, you need to go out and raise money for a cause, and for profits, you need to raise money from investors. So I think that if you take those two aspects, it all depends on the personality that is behind the organization. If you ask me, and I have to give you a straight answer, I love nonprofits, but I run it like a business. And I know this sounds kind of confusing, but I do think that in the world we're right now, it's a great option, especially if you're beginning and you have the personality and you're not afraid to knock on doors and ask for money for the cause. If you don't like that, then maybe you should consider it a business. But a business nowadays should not be hurting the environment. The reason we are where we are right now globally, and it's because a lot of private enterprises have not been looking out for the environment, and they've just put profits over environment, and I think that's where it's wrong. So I would say nonprofit, run like a business, and just take in consideration the leadership in that team.
Yeah, and we could. There's a trend to actually go more social. So even big corporations are realizing that if they don't focus on improving communities and also improving the environment or taking care of the communities and the environment, there's no future. There's no future for the whole planet. So there's a move actually from CEOs to actually go into a more social focus, and not so much only on shareholder, profitability,
Okay. The thing is, I think, Keren, that there's a debate that can be done there, because what creates more positive impact in the world, let's say Chevron, which is a company that works with oil, and it's known for having little to no environmental friendly practices, or a small charity that provides let's say I don't know, medicines to 5 poor families. Which one creates a better impact? Because if you see the global impact, Chevron creates a lot of job opportunities, creates a lot of wealth for the countries where it operates. It creates the oil that you put on your car to go work and to help also your families with medicines, versus the other one, which doesn't affect the environment at all, but it's helping, and it's a charity, and it's helping 5 poor families. So where's the balance there?
I mean, if the question is which one is better, I don't have an opinion about that. I think they need each other. And there's a relationship called enterprise philanthropy cycle. where your enterprise and you create opportunities, you create innovation, which produces wealth, and that wealth is used to invest in philanthropy, in nonprofits or social enterprises. So they need each other. However, if I would choose a job, I would prefer to work at a small organization, and to have a more grassroots maybe impact than actually a global impact, But that's me.
Anna, what's your opinion there?
Yeah.
My opinion is that there's a lack of third party lately, which is the government, because the government should be regulating Chevrolet. And I think because our generation has seen that that's not happening, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to do my own nonprofit. I'm going to take the tax break, because nonprofits get a different tax break. And I'm going to try to increase that impact that the government should be leading, because Chevrolet can continue to do what they're doing, but they just need to do it better, even if it costs them more. And I think, because the world has become so greedy and they want to make more, even though, they are not treating well their surroundings. And I think that has to change. And I think that's what has brought all this different nonprofits and social enterprises in Puerto Rico. There's this like a tax filing status instead of LLC and corporation or nonprofit. You can be a social corporation or organization, and you get tax benefits. So I think Chevrolet is doing whatever they want to do in this case, just the example. But I do think if the government would be a little bit more active regulating, then Chevrolet wouldn't be able to cause or whoever damage.
Yeah.
And this is just a hypothetical example. Because I know that these big companies are not great with the environment, but I'm really not aware of what Chevrolet is doing or not doing.
At first, I was talking about Chevron, the oil producer.
Yes.
But it's, I think everyone understood your point there. And for me, if I may enter the discussion and to follow with the next questions, I think there's a balance to be made where companies, corporations, small, big, medium, could and should measure their impact, not only in profits, but also in the positive impact they do on the world and on the families and generally in all of their stakeholders. How is everyone in their environment being benefited by their work and what they do?
Yeah, and actually that is the most difficult part to measure. How do you measure long-term impact? It's not that tangible. It's not something that would happen next year or in 6 months. How do you measure impact in education? You measure it like 10 years from now. So but it should be measured, and then where to invest more.
And trying to I think trying to measure it is the first step towards becoming better and having those standards for yourself.
But
I think they should give back. All these organizations, they should give back to their surroundings. I once heard a quote that said, Amazon is not going to sponsor your kid's baseball game. And to be honest, it was kind of true. And I think that's, I believe a lot in communities and creating businesses to show the culture of a country. And I think they should just, give back more. Even if their, profits are decreased.
The thing is, and I wanted to move on from this question, but talking about Chevron, they do oil for cars and gas. And if they start giving back to the community, they have two options. They could lower their profits, or they could increase the price of the oil. So then you would have if they increase the price of the oil, you, instead of putting gas and recharging your car with that company, you'll go probably to the other gas station, which is cheaper. And they will lose customers and they won't be able to support the communities. And in the other hand, if they maintain the same prices, but they lower their profits, then the investors of the company and the stockholders will walk away and will go to the next oil company. So they're in a complicated situation to do that. But I think we as humanity, we can, and all companies can set goals to be better and to increase their positive impact. And we are in a stage in 2020 where we can all strive to do that and try to do that and achieve it.
Yeah, and then, but that is what is called the triple bottom line. I mean, usually companies were focused on only the bottom line, which is profit and profit margins. But now, especially the sustainability, movement is calling for a triple bottom line, which is focused on three aspects: environment, social, and governance. Where you're not only focused on profits, which would be the governance part, or how shareholders, feel, or what they want, but also the other aspects, and especially if you want to keep being a big player, you should start thinking about ESG, environment, social, and governance, where the priority is not only profit margins. And I'm saying so because there's a big letter for CEOs that is written, I forget by whom now, every year. And yeah, I forget the name of the person that writes that. It's a big investor, global investor. And he was clear in his last letter that companies have to move towards sustainability, towards the triple bottom line, if they want to survive.
Yes,
for example,
I agree.
In the case of Shell, which is a competitor of Chevron, what they're doing is that they're not changing their business model. They are still selling, gas and using cars as their way of transportation. But what they're doing is that they are investing in carbon neutralization. So they neutralize carbon emissions. So they measure how much usage their clients are of gas their clients are using, and then they're investing those amounts in credits for carbon neutralization, so trying to zero in carbon emissions. And also they're investing in planting trees, and other types of which is a type of mitigation. It is adaptation. It's like, I'm not going to solve the problem of contamination, but I'm going to do something else to contribute. But of course, that affects their bottom line if you're only looking at profits. But I want to go back, Tonya, Maria, to the first question how you started the question. Which one is better, non-profit or for-profit? Non-profit.
I would say for-profit.
For-profit. Huh.
Yeah.
You're saying that in the face of Ana, which is from Causa Local?
No, but honestly, we're non-profit and we sponsor and help for profits.
For profits, yeah.
If I had, I don't know, $10,000 from my savings to invest, I would invest them in a for-profit that I know that takes care of the environment and of their stakeholders, rather than give them away to a charity that will buy, I don't know, 5 wheelchairs for people that is paralyzed, because I think the impact will be broader. But that's a personal opinion. And I would like to hear your final answer on this, and then we can move on, because this was actually not the topic of our podcast.
I know we are passionate about this, so we can continue to have 3 podcasts about this on this subject. I think it depends then, listening to you, on what you would invest. I would think, for example, I would like to invest in mental health, in nonprofits that are working in mental health. And maybe it depends on your personal goals and what are important to you, and which organizations are doing more to change towards those goals. So if I see that there are nonprofits that are doing more to what I believe in, maybe I will invest more in nonprofits. But also, it has to go back to how the impact that they're having. How do we measure impact?
Okay. And Ana?
But if I see,
Non-profits that are run like a business.
Yeah.
I'm being biased, I know, but
no, that's true, because
but
there's a lot
honest,
of
I'm being honest
nonprofits
as well.
that don't have the infrastructure or the administrative resources to actually receive the funds and then use them, wisely. So
The thing is,
because it's a nonprofit,
there's
it
no
doesn't mean I'm going to invest in them.
how, and then you will be able to answer this later. But I think it's very, very, very tough for a nonprofit to run as a business if they're not running after money and after creating value for the sustainable growth.
Mm-hmm.
But you will be able to answer this on our next question, entering into the content of this podcast. So Ana, you run Causa Local.
Yes.
You're helping NGOs and small companies grow and be sustainable in the long term.
Yes, actually the majority are for profit. I could say there's a like 80-20, 80 for profit, 20 non-profit.
Okay, helping a lot of for-profits and some non-profits grow and be sustainable. May you share with us what you do exactly and what's the current situation with this in Puerto Rico right now?
Yes. Well, the first step in Causa Local, because remember, we're like a ladder. And that first step is Kiva. So Kiva is an online crowd lending platform that facilitates loans up to 15,000 at 0% interest. So it's like a philanthropic financial model. And our target audience or clients are small business owners that are starting a business that normally don't have access to capital. In Puerto Rico, there are only 3 banks. 10 years ago, there could be like 7 banks. So the need for access to capital is humongous. And that's why we've grown so fast. There's a huge entrepreneurship movement in Puerto Rico going on, which is amazing and wonderful. But we need to be careful because we can't grow businesses without money. And we're addressing two types of businesses, the ones that are starting and the ones that continue to grow with us through resources and money, and then the ones that have grown and need additional money. And basically that's our audience, and that's what we do. We're non-traditional access to capital ladder.
Okay, great. And what's the relationship between Causa Local and Kiva?
We are partners. We sign an annual agreement, and they give us trainings and resources, so we can offer Kiva locally and offer the service. Technically, nobody touches the money because everything goes through PayPal and then to the small business account. But imagine Kiva is like Facebook, but for small business owners, or LinkedIn, but for small business owners. They get to tell their story, and they get to talk about their needs and what are they going to use the loan they're requesting for.
Okay, and what I'm sorry if I'm stepping out of my way here, but who pays your salary, or how in this organization?
Literally, we were, I grew this for the past 3.5 years in Puerto Rico, and I had another full-time job until we were able to fundraise for the money. So I've fundraised for my own salary and the rest of our fundraising, of our operational budget, because now we have a team, and I pay people their salaries as well. But yes, it's a hard job, but so I did all the fundraising.
It's a non-profit and operates with fundraising.
We have grants. Until now, honestly, we've received grants from different organizations locally and globally. Great.
Okay, and Keren, this podcast is the Wizard talks about the Wizard Fellowship, which we haven't mentioned up until now. May you tell us a bit about how did you see the opportunity to help Causa Local via V2A, which is the consulting company in which you work, you and me, and the Wizard Fellowship? How do you see that management consultants could help Causa Local other than giving them money? And maybe give us a bit of also a bit of context on what is the WSF Fellowship.
Yes. WSF Fellows, which is very dear to my heart. I have been working for it for the last 4 months. And it's an internship that we created in B2A Consulting this summer for a lot of students. We always have interns in B2A, but it's like 1, 2 at a time. But this time, when we saw that so many students had lost their internships, paid internships due to the COVID, we said, our partners said, like, let's do some internship where we can provide experience for these students and something to do in the summer. And we have always worked with nonprofits and also small enterprises through like pro bono work. But we have been in collaboration before WSF Fellows with Causa Local. And then we said, you know, this is the perfect opportunity. Let's do something like this. So I met Ana María, I think at the beginning of the year, right? We had a lunch
like in January.
January. We had a lunch with Tamari, which is a friend we have in common, which also worked for B2A. And we were talking about Causa Local, what they were doing. And also Tamari was telling us stories about a support she was giving to a nonprofit organization in the south of Puerto Rico. And that she was helping them with Excel, you know, putting the registry of donations in Excel, teaching them how to use Google Drive, you know, very basic stuff for us, especially in consulting. And I remember that Ana María said, like, hey, but that is exactly what my micro entrepreneurs need every day. You know, we are trying to help them, but they don't have Excel skills or, you know, or technology skills. And that's like, hey, so maybe we can collaborate here, because in B2A, we love to serve, we love to help. And you know, for us, it's very easy to do analysis in Excel or, you know, there's things that we do every day that are normal to us that are very crucial for these small organizations. So we started talking, and then we agreed with the B2A directors to do a pilot where we were gonna help, like, I think it was 5 micro enterprises that were supported by Causa Local. You know, they already repaid their loans, Kiva loans, and they were being helped and supported by Causa Local. But they were in a stage where they needed to grow and more, but they needed, you know, some kind of infrastructure, also like back office work in terms of analysis, you know. And so we established 5 teams in B2A, 2 consultants per team, and we started working with Ana María and these micro enterprises. And one of the micro enterprises couldn't continue, so we actually helped Causa Local, and they needed a strategic planning.
I was like, wait, I need help too.
Yeah, I need. And I said, let's start by the basics. You know, if you're gonna be continuing collaborating with Causa Local, let's help them first. You know, and it was great. And they also, Ana María also wanted a valuation model to see how they could move from actually surviving through fundraising, right, to actually investing in the micro enterprises that were growing, so that they could then, you know, receive return on investment. So there was a need for them to actually have a strategic plan and also this valuation model. And then working with this pilot with 5 organizations, then all this idea of WSF Fellows occurs, and then the partners come and like say, hey, we're already working with micro enterprises. Let's bring students so that they help us with these organizations, and let's find more organizations, you know, that we can help. So we have been working for the past 6 weeks with fellows, the WSF Fellows, and we have been helping 13 organizations, of which 7 are micro enterprises and 6 are nonprofits, all from Puerto Rico. Also, all students are from Puerto Rico. However, they study in different universities, either Puerto Rico, US, and Canada. And the We Serve concept comes from our program in B2A, focused on community service. You know, we work on different topics, including social, health, environment, and education. So this project with Causa Local and the We Serve Fellows is a part of the social focus of We Serve in B2A. So that's why we're calling them We Serve Fellows, you know, because they are part of the We Serve program. it has been amazing, and we are closing this week. We are doing a recount of everything that has been completed, and they're doing their final presentations this week. Ana Maria had her final presentation today.
Yes.
And it's, it has been amazing. They're doing it voluntarily, the students, they're not being paid. Also, the employees that are mentoring from B2A that are mentoring the students, they're doing it, as an additional workload to their current work, with current B2A clients. So it's all voluntary. So, I mean, I have been very emotional lately because to see the impact on the clients, and also how the students have been learning. We have been teaching them a lot of technical stuff in consulting, socioeconomic trainings. They have been having career sessions with different experts in different industries. So it has been very fulfilling for all of us. And also, for the micro enterprises and nonprofits that have been receiving the support.
Connection failed a bit. Okay, so in summary, the WSF Fellowship is a 6-week program where 30 students work alongside 30 or around 30 consultants from V2A Consulting to help and support around 10 NGOs and small companies that also work with Causa Local.
Some of them work with Causa Local, not all of them, yeah.
Okay, which most of them work with Causa Local to grow and become stronger towards the future.
Yeah.
Is that a good summary?
Yeah, that's perfect. And also, the good thing about working with Causa Local, and this is true, not because Ana Maria is here, is the enterprises that Kiva and Causa Local support have to do something good for the community. They're required to not only sell, what they're selling, but they have to ensure they're changing something, in the community, in the social environment, or environmental stuff, And so it's like, for example, we were working with a boutique, the Ocasión Boutique, and at first glance, it's like, oh, it's just a boutique. But no, they are helping. They're using second-hand clothing that is very high quality, and they're also using donation of clothes that are not useful anymore. They're upcycling those clothes, so the clothes can be used in another products, or the material can be reused. So, and they're ensuring to teach the community about the importance of recycling, and sustainability and slow fashion, and so it's amazing. So especially the enterprises that come from Causa Local to us, it's really fulfilling for us to help, because we know that we're not only helping them to operate better, but also they are doing an impact in their communities, So it's a double cost,
Great. And Ana, what has been your experience working with the fellows, not only in Causa Local, but with all the companies and the NGOs? What have you heard about?
First of all, I talked to all of the small business owners that have gone through the program throughout the 6 weeks, and they were all super excited and super thankful, and all of them said it's the perfect timing. And that makes me really happy, because these are small business owners that have already gone through the ecosystem partners, meaning that they have already been incubated or received there's me trabé, pero que han pasado por incubators or entrepreneurship programs. So they've already received the education, and they've received capital through Kiva. And then they're like, okay, what's next? and right now in Puerto Rico, there's an area of opportunity for small business owners that are in that level. And I think that's why the program was such a success. From my experience, it was also amazing. The interns were great. The research they did, it was like, yes, this is perfect. And one of the things that I really liked is the organization. I come from Deloitte, so I learned what is structure and being organized and not leaving things for last minutes. And even though sometimes you have to, because you have no other choice, but I really like the planning aspect of it. It's like, okay, I need this to be provided by clients. Send me this, and I'll work with it, and then I'll give you a deliverable. And that just it's a way to get work done and save me time that I don't have. So in the sense, so I really appreciated that they really did their homework, they were organized, and the back and forth was minimal. Not that I don't want the back and forth, but right now, you know, because I'm still growing at a fast speed and I have a small team, it's like, okay, give you the work and you do it. And everything's fine.
Great. And
I want to say one last thing. You may, the interns may not have received like money for what they did, but they did receive education, and I think that education is super important because nobody takes it away from you, and it helps you throughout your life.
For sure. Yeah, and talking to some of the fellows, what I've heard from them is that one of the things that have fulfilled them the most during these 6 weeks has been to learn a lot about different careers, about different techniques, management practices, from how to use Excel to how to use the pyramid principle to explain an issue or issue trees or communication. I think they're very happy with that. So, and starting to wrap up this episode, I wanted to ask both of you, how may different entities and people also, how can they help the growth of the Puerto Rican social enterprise development, and how they can help NGOs and which NGOs to help and how to help them, and how can they make sure that their money will end up in the right hands and will create the most impact? I want to hear both of your opinions.
I'll answer that first. I think the first thing you have to look at as an investor or as a donor is how the organization is measuring what they're doing. I think that's super important. And something else that comes to my mind is what money is going to be going to operational expenses and what's going to be going directly to small business owners. I think that's very important, because if you run into a nonprofit that tells you that 80% of their budget is operational and 20% is impact, you know, I at least would not invest in that nonprofit. So going back to your comment of, I like more for-profits because I think they have a bigger impact. I think nonprofits can do that. It's just that in the past, we have like another idea of nonprofits. And I think you use the word charities, like, you know, like they do good, but everything's more relaxed, and that's not bad. But I do think that if you're not measuring what you do, for profit or nonprofit, you have to. We're living in a world that everything, you know, is going to the data way. And if you don't have data, you're not measuring, it's like you're not doing anything. So I think it's very important for you to review.
Evaluation.
Evaluate the impact that a nonprofit or for-profit is doing. And then base your decision on that. And I think you need to do due diligence.
And actually in that area, especially evaluation in Puerto Rico is very scarce. Like evaluation organizations, there's, for example, emphasis and I think estudios técnicos that help or support nonprofits, especially in evaluating the impact of their programs, you know. But there is scarce, you know, and I think if I would help an organization, especially a nonprofit, it would be in that area, more in the administrative stuff, you know. For example, doing due diligence, you know, measuring stuff. How do you measure? How do you create metrics? How do you establish goals? You know, how do you differentiate results versus actually impact? You know, because having 100 people in a workshop is a result, but what is the impact of that workshop? You know, and that's the difficult part to measure. But then many of the things where, especially nonprofits, fail, but I don't want to say fail because that's not the true word.
You have an opportunity.
They have an opportunity because they don't have enough resources, you know. It's actually the administrative stuff. And a lot of, there's a lot of organizations which have very prepared people in Puerto Rico that have the ability to actually go to an Excel and create, you know, a database and measure stuff and calculate, put formulas in, and actually calculate stuff, which is not the strength of the people in the nonprofit maybe, but it's the strength of someone that studied finance or accounting or engineering, and many other backgrounds, and there's a lot to do in that sense of actually supporting organizations measure, and prepare for the administrative and financial area. But also another thing that I think it's working, and I have a friend, they're a matrimony, they're a couple, they're owners of 635 Group. It's a company that does retail, but they're also diversifying. And what they believe is that all the experience that they have gotten in this 15 years working in retail stores, like marketing, how to design a store, they want to actually create sub-companies focus on small organizations, how they can provide their expertise through services, for small organizations that maybe cannot pay a big company, big marketing company, but can pay a small company, and also a design that may not be able to pay a big design company, but they can pay a small design company, so actually it's like going small also helps small organizations, and then another way which I saw this part of supporting small organizations is actually being like a big brother for small organizations. And I saw that in my master, we had a class about supply chain. One of the models of the class was supply chain, and how do you apply sustainability in supply chain. And to apply sustainability, you have to change a lot of systems, you have to change a lot of processes, ways of work. But many small organizations, for example, in Baghdad, or Bangladesh, they don't have maybe the resources to implement the changes that maybe a Starbucks is requiring, or Unilever, big corporations require new ethical standards or new sustainability standards or green supply chain, but the small suppliers do not have the resources to actually implement those changes. So one thing that is occurring is in the supply chain, they're dividing in clusters those suppliers, and the biggest suppliers are like adopting or being the big brother for the smaller ones, and then implementing, using volume and scaling to actually implement changes for a group of small organizations. So that's also a thing that we could do in Puerto Rico. We could adopt, small organizations, and if I already have an account of a system that this small organization cannot pay for, maybe as a big brother, I can extend an account to that person. For me, it's like a minimal cost, but for them, it's a big cost, so it's another way to actually be supporting small organization. And the last one, if I may, also working with Ana Maria with Emprende 360, right? Emprende 360. Yes. I was able to give workshops after hours, through online to a small, to people that were interested in actually starting their small organizations, small enterprises, on how to calculate sales in Excel. That for me, that's very basic again, but for them it's a whole new thing, and how to establish prices, using Excel and using profit margins, and so you can also do things after hours, and maybe take 1 hour per week or 1 hour per month and just invest in other people that are beginning to grow. Because I don't see myself as an entrepreneur. I don't think I have that entrepreneurial, mindset, but I love helping the ones who do, So if I can just give a workshop for them on 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, that maybe changes their life. And for me, it's just, 1 hour and a half, So.
You'd be surprised. I never thought I was going to be leading a nonprofit.
That's true.
The Deloitte girl.
That was not in my plans, but honestly, it was my best decision ever, to be honest. But it's because I do it with passion, and I think everything you do, you need to do it with passion.
For sure. Great. For those people listening to this podcast for the first time, and the companies or NGOs that the WSF Fellowship is helping are Apoyo Mutuo, Caras con Causa, Causa Local, Coro de Niños de San Juan, Direct Relief, Tienda de Ocasión, Hospital Pediátrico.
Fundación del Hospital Pediátrico.
Fundación del Hospital Pediátrico. I always make that mistake. Molcajete Foods, Pita Haya Glamping, PR Loves Yoga, Jess Imports, Librería. Keren, may you remind me?
Contemporánea.
Librería Contemporánea and FFE, which I don't remember which.
Fundación Forjadores de Esperanza, which is
Fundación Forjadores de Esperanza.
I'm doing projects with right now, yeah.
Oh, great. So they, all those companies and NGOs have received for the last 6 weeks the support of 2 or 3 college students plus consultants. And I think they're happy. We'll be able to hear a bit more from them on the next episode of this podcast. And I want to thank you, Keren, for leading this initiative. You are the living example that companies that work for profit can also help and support their communities. And Ana, I want to help you too. I want to thank you too for everything that you do, for being so generous with your time and efforts to support the growth of Puerto Rico from the bottom up. I know you will see the results and the fruits of all your efforts, both of you. And
Keren es la patrona.
La patrona.
Don't mess with her.
And I wanted to say we are already working and planning the next program for next year. You know, we have to start recruiting students in September and October because they plan their internships. And we are planning to open applications for organizations that are interested in projects for next year, either micro enterprises or nonprofits. And for sure, we were going to be opening that maybe in January or February. But if any organization or student is interested in information, we have a contact form in our WSFfellows.com page where they can write us, you know, and put their names and information, and we're gonna make sure to contact them as soon as we start the processes, you know. And we are so excited to actually do this every year, you know.
Great, WSFfellows.com. Ana, any other comments?
Feel free to follow us in Causa Local, Instagram, Facebook. We're in the middle of we're remodeling our website. But we have lots of lives in Causa Local Instagram. And we talk to different small business owners, especially right now, we're connecting a lot with small business organizations from the creative industries. So if you wanna, while you're grabbing your morning coffee, they're like 20 minutes live conversations, and they're great. And anybody that's listening to us, I think giving back is amazing. I think people underestimate it, and in that process, you meet so many amazing people. So, I ask everyone to take homework and choose a cause and give back.
Yeah. And actually, giving through Kiva is so easy. I did it, and you can just lend $25. And then I receive emails like, hey, you had a repayment of $1.93, And I get excited because it means that someone is actually using the money, And then when you get repaid those $25, you can lend them again.
You pay them again, yes.
So,
actually, yesterday we heard that our repayment rate is 97%. Right now we have almost 200 small business owners in Puerto Rico that are repaying properly, and that's amazing. So we're really in celebration mood.
Congratulations for that, Ana. It's a very good metric.
Yes.
So
it's amazing.
Yeah, if you're hearing this, thank you for being here. Please leave us your comments. Feel free to contact any one of us, Keren, Ana, or me, and we'll be glad to answer your questions or guide you in the process of helping Puerto Rico grow and develop. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Tanya.
Bye, Keren. Bye, Ana.
Thanks for your time. Nos vemos.